Hello, this is Jack Yost, your business professor, and I want to welcome you to this chapter called Communicating, Chapter 13, as part of Management Theory and Practice, Management 323, offered by the Catholic University of America here in Washington, D.C. There is an Army cliche, an old cliche that says 10% of your troops, 10% of your personnel, 10% of your people will never get the word. No matter how thorough your communication, no matter how skilled you are, no matter how eloquent you are, 10% of your people will never get the message, will never get the word. And that's what this chapter attempts to address is to reduce the risk that your people will not get the word, even though 10% never will. And part of this skill of a talented manager is to repeat the message, and to say again, to repeat the message, because 10% will never get the word. So let's talk about what this looks like, where most of the manager's job, most of the manager's role is consumed in communication. Our learning objectives today are to discuss the importance and advantages of two-way communication, identify communication problems to avoid, describe when and how to use the various communication channels, give examples of ways to become a better sender and receiver of information, explain how to improve downward, upward, and horizontal communication, summarize how to work with the company grapevine, describe the boundaryless organization and its benefits. Interpersonal communication. The communication defined is the transmission of information and meaning from one party to another through the use of shared symbols. The sender initiates the process by conveying information to the receiver, the person for whom the message is intended. The sender has a meaning he or she wishes to communicate and encodes the meaning into symbols, words that are chosen for the message. Then the sender transmits or sends the message through some channel, such as a verbal or written medium. The receiver decodes the message, for example, reads it, and attempts to interpret the sender's meaning. The receiver may provide feedback to the sender by encoding a message in response to the sender's message. Under interpersonal communication, we have noise and examples of noise. Noise is the interference in the system, and noise blocks perfect understanding. For example of noise is ringing telephones, thinking about other things, or simple fatigue and stress. This is contrasted with noise and signal. Noise is a distraction. Signal is the actual data that's to be conveyed. The text talks little about signal, but we want to know the difference between noise and signal. One-way communication is common. One-way communication is a process in which information flows only in one direction from the sender to the receiver, with no direct feedback loop. General mode of communication, as it is seen in Exhibit 13.1. Communication should flow in two directions. Two-way communication is a process in which information flows in two directions. The receiver provides feedback, and the sender is receptive to the feedback. One of the things that I'll do in my live lectures constantly, is, as in a sales presentation, is to ask taglines such as, "Does that make sense?" And this is a tagline to get a response from my client, my customer, my audience, my class, to get some feedback from the receiver of the information. Did they understand it? Did they receive it? Does this make sense? So, does this make sense? Model of two-way communication in Exhibit 13.2. Communication pitfalls, perception, the process of receiving and interpreting the information, and filtering, the process of withholding, ignoring, or distorting information. Easy to do. Avoiding communication problems. Ensure that the receivers attend to the message they are sending. Consider the other party's frame of reference and attempt to convey the message with that viewpoint in mind. Take concrete steps to minimize perceptual errors and improper signals in sending and receiving, and send consistent messages. Oral and written channels. Oral channels include face-to-face discussion, telephone conversations, informal presentations, and speeches. Written communications includes email memos, letters, reports, computer files, and other written documents. And this is the great challenge of email, is that with oral communications we have, in face-to-face, we have nonverbal clues, nonverbal signals, so that the receiver can more completely understand what we're doing. In that, 85% of most communication is nonverbal. which is lost in a written communication such as an email. We try to do this nonverbal communication in an email with emoticons. Your business professor does not use emoticons. That's just not my style. I hope that my communication in a written format is so thorough that those emotional icons are not used. Advantages and disadvantages of oral and written communication is seen in Exhibit 13.3. Electronic media offers flexible, efficient channels in Web 2.0, a set of internet-based applications that encourage user-provided content and collaboration, social networking, podcast, RSS, really simple syndication, and wikis. Advantages and disadvantages of using electronic media at work, as seen in Exhibit 13.4. The virtual office is a mobile office in which people can work anywhere as long as they have the tools to communicate with customers and colleagues. This is such as the course that we are taking now, an online course that all that you need is an internet connection and you've got course credit. Use richer media for complex or critical messages. A media richness is the degree to which a communication channel conveys information. The richest media is a face-to-face meeting where the most complicated sales presentations and an important presentation or an important request is done face-to-face, in person, eyeball to eyeball, man to man, mano a mano, toe to toe, belly to belly, in person. If you're going to ask for a raise, do it in person. Don't ask for a raise over email, even if you use a smiley face. What communication channel would you use in different situations? Suggested media choices for sample situations. Look at Exhibit 13.5. Tips for making formal presentations more powerful. Spend adequate time on the content of your presentation. Clearly understand the objective of your presentation. Tell the audience the purpose of the presentation. Provide the meaning, not just data, and practice and practice and practice. Which is to say, tell your audience what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. And practice. Remember that a presentation is more like a conversation than a speech. Remember that the incredible power of eye contact allow for imperfection. And this is the great challenge for management as managers move from managing to being an individual contributor, is that the world of the manager, as the alert student will remember, is the world of imperfection. And that is also the world of making a presentation of slight imperfection. Be prepared to answer tough questions. Provide a crisp wrap-up to a question and answer session. Nonverbal skills. Use time appropriately. Make your office arrangement conducive to open communication, and remember your body language. Listening. Reflection. It's a process by which a person states what he or she believes the other person is saying, which is to say, the tagline is that if I hear you correctly, you said, if I hear you correctly, you said. 10 keys to effective listening. Find an area of interest. Judge content, not delivery. It's hard to do. Hold your fire. That means restrain your emotions. Listen for ideas. Be flexible. Resist distraction. Exercise your mind. Keep your mind open. Capitalize on thought speed. And work at listening. Listening is work. Observing. A vital source of useful observations comes from personally visiting people, plants, and other locations to get a first-hand view. The most important thing that a manager or a staffer can have is to say, I was there. I saw this when I visited there, when I worked here. The first person singular is a powerful observation. You must accurately interpret what you observe. Downward communication directs, motivates, coaches, and informs. Information that flows from higher to lower levels and an organization's hierarchy is downward communication. Information lost in downward communication. Exhibit 13.6 says that at the board level, at the highest level in our organization, we probably have 100% of our message that's transmitted is received. At the bottom part of the pyramid is where that there's some 80% loss to the staff that actually have to do the work, which is to say that we're almost there. The 10% never get the word. Coaching. It's a dialogue with a goal of helping another be more effective and achieve his or her full potential on the job. That's part of mentoring also. Open book management is the practice of sharing with employees and staffers at all levels of the organization vital information previously meant for management eyes only, such as how much does the boss make? Upward communication is invaluable to management. Upward communication is information that flows from lower to higher levels in the organization's hierarchy. Tip O'Neill, the esteemed Speaker of the House, who worked with Ronald Reagan, so to say, of different parties. But these old Irishmen would get together at 5 o'clock and be dear friends, but beforehand they would be rather contentious opponents. But Tip O'Neill was an expert manager, and Tip O'Neill would start every staff meeting by saying to his staff, "What do you know? What do you hear?" Tip O'Neill started every meeting with, "What do you know? What do you hear?" So he was looking for information to flow upward to him. Horizontal communication fosters collaboration. Information shared among people on the same hierarchical level allows units to share information, coordinate work, and solve mutual problems. Horizontal communication fosters collaboration by helping to resolve conflicts and provide social and emotional support to people. 4 modes of work. Informal communication is the grapevine, the social network of informal communication. This is what Tip O'Neill did when he asked his staff, "What do you know? What do you hear?" He was tapping into the grapevine. Provides people with information, helps them solve problems, and teaches them through the grapevine how to do their work successfully. The literature also shows that the grapevine, this informal network of communications, is accurate most of the time. Managing informal communication. If a manager hears a story that could get out of hand, he should talk to the key people involved and get the facts and their perspectives singularly, one-on-one, and talk to the key individuals. Dispel uncertainties by providing facts and establish open communication and trust over time. This is the key factor, is over time, to dispel uncertainties. Management can deal with uncertainties, but individual contributors, staffers, do not do well. Perfectionists do not handle uncertainty well. A manager should neutralize rumors once they have started. Boundaryless organization. It's an organization in which there are no barriers to information flow, that information and data can flow across business silos. This is made popular by Jack Welch at GE, when he was at GE. Implies information available as needed, moving quickly and easily enough so that the organization functions far better as a whole than as separate units. Let us pause here in our lecturette, and I invite you to complete the assignment and the text reading and submit to me your assignments, and I look forward to working with you on the next lecturette. Thank you. This is Jack Yost, your business blogger.